yummy like a gummy bear.
Hey everybody, welcome to Game Mess Mornings with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from giantbomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about more news out of Capcom, and is a big 2024 surprise coming to Switch 2? It's going to be a good one because we have Reese Elliott on the show. Reese, how are you doing?
Hello, Jeff. I'm doing really well. Like I just said, we've been playing a lot of Switch 2 in my household, a lot of Mario Kart, but I'm ready for DK. I'm all Mario Karted out. Like, I need that next Switch game.
Yep.
But also, this is like a little bit of a correlation here. I've kind of annoyed the anti-DEI community again, which kind of happened last time I was on the show.
It's
I had the audacity.
Let me stop you there. The whole thing is breaking on me. Let me see. I think we might be back, actually.
Okay, we're back.
I think we're back, but there was a weird chug in the system, and it was causing everything, not just OBS, to be weird. But OBS didn't crash, so I'm considering this an improvement. All right, so
progress.
Yeah, you were saying that you were like looking into something, and it annoyed some people.
Yeah, exactly. So I shared some data on Stellar Blade and the crossover between Stellar Blade players and Dead or Alive, like one of the beach volleyball-esque games. And Grum's followers did not like that, so I got brigaded.
What? I mean, like, what is even the problem there? Are they afraid to admit what's even going on? That's silly. Surprised to find out that they're silly and unserious people. Yeah, I was.
Who'd have thunk?
Yeah, I was looking at that relooted game. I was at Summer Game Fest, and I was asking people, "Hey, what's good?" And Imran was telling me, "Hey, yeah, this relooted game. It's about stealing artifacts from museums to send back to Africa." I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. And then I got home and checked out the trailer because I didn't get a chance to play it while I was at SGF. And the trailer was just, I have that extension that still shows how many downvotes it has. And it had like 10 times the number of downvotes. I'm like, what's going on here? And it's like one glance into the comments. And it's just like, oh, yeah, this is a game about black people. So we are going to be mad about it. Okay, it's the mask is fully off over there now. So Reloaded looks very cool, though, everybody. Everyone should check it out.
All right. Check it out. It looks great.
We are starting late, so let's just get into it. Before we get into things, let's explain what we do here. giantbomb.com/join is where you need to go to help us out. We are a crew of 5 trying to piece the whole thing together. It's been going well, but we need your help to continue doing it and continue to grow and continue to make things happen like we did at SGF, and as we have plans for the future. If you go there, sign up for a membership, and become a premium member. It really does contribute in a big way to what we're doing. We really appreciate it. It gets you ad-free shows. It's going to get you some extra goodies as well. We are working on a bunch of stuff, actually. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And as far as this show goes, most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Resident Evil Requiem, Pragmata, and more to appear in a Capcom showcase next week. This comes from Jordan Midler at VGC. Capcom has announced its next Capcom Spotlight Showcase, promising news on Resident Evil Requiem, Pragmata, and more. We will be presenting the latest news on highly anticipated upcoming Capcom titles, along with developer interviews, the company said. The stream will feature new information on Monster Hunter Wilds, Street Fighter VI, Pragmata, and Resident Evil Requiem. The broadcast is planned to last for approximately 40 minutes. Capcom Spotlight Showcase takes place on Thursday, June 26th at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. They had a big showing at SGF, Reese, when I was there. There is a little hall. It's not a big hall. It's like a kind of a little, little hall is the best way to put it, because it's not a room. It's bigger than that, but it's small for a hall, which rhymes. And there's a lot of presence there from a bunch of different developers that just happen to have a game ready to go in this moment. There is then some cabanas off to the side that like Sega always uses, and they were there doing that again. So there's like hey, some studios are here, and some publishers have their presentation or their representation that they always have at the show. But it's like, okay, but really, like, where's the big stuff? And for that, it was just Capcom. Capcom had the biggest, representation at the event in total. So it's like they are ready to talk about their games. There's a lot of stuff for them to talk about. They're on a roll. Now they have this showcase, which Capcom showcases usually tend to be a little bit more informational about stuff we've already been told about in some ways. Now they're like going to try to really sell it. So I'm not expecting a ton of new announcements, but at the very least, I am expecting to maybe get a slight tease, Reese, about what is actually going on beyond what we saw for Resident Evil Requiem. Do you think it's time for them to already show more of that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, what did they say? I think February 2026 is when it's coming out. So it's kind of very much
February 27th of 2026. Yes.
Yeah. So it's very much in the pre-launch kind of hype building period right now. And it's time. I mean, like, Capcom has been smashing it, right? Like, we've been waiting for the new Resident Evil for a while. Like, believe it or not, I think it's been like 4 years since Village.
Really?
And
that does not feel like that.
Yeah, it's insane because it was a very early like PS5 Series XS game. But yeah, Capcom's been smashing it with like its remakes. It's like, high quality new game development. It's not been chasing trends. And like what they've been doing with Resi, with Monster Hunter, with Street Fighter has been amazing. They've pushed into PC really well.
Yes.
Dragon's Dogma 2. And they've been seeing record profits, and the gamers, the community are happy. And it seems like they're very much kind of continuing on with that strategy, and their 2026 runway looks amazing. They even have a new IP with Pragmata, which you said. Probably a bit of copium here, Jeff, but like I'm hoping for something Dino Crisis. But
who knows?
They're gonna mind that Resident Evil well first. But yeah, I mean, RE9 is already like tracking really well. Do you want me to share a bit of data on that we have for you?
Yeah, let's do it for sure. That'd be great.
Yeah, so I was just digging into some of the Steam wishlist data in the Alinea database, and Resident Evil 9 already has 845,000 wishlists, which is wild, because like it just was added right after SGF. And even Pragmata, which is a new IP, yeah, sure, it was like unveiled quite a while ago.
Yeah,
but even that has 310,000 wishlists on just Steam, mind you. And like for 2 games coming out in 2026, those are some damn good numbers. So it seems like Capcom is kind of continuing on that trajectory, and it doesn't want to lose steam after SGF. So it's really kind of like still pushing. And I do like the dedicated like showcase thing. Like, Nintendo really pushed that with the Direct. PlayStation kind of emulated it with the State of Play. And yeah, I think it's time. That was a very long-winded answer, but yes, it's time.
No, I appreciate it. I'm glad we can get that info. As far as Resident Evil goes, people in chat are saying this is probably right. They will use this opportunity to release that video trailer that they showed us, or not even a trailer. It was just uninterrupted gameplay for the most part. So we got to see that at SGF in a theater. A handful of people got to play it. I was not one of those people, but they played exactly what we saw. So it does seem like they want to show off this vertical slice. So now that I think about that, it's like actually maybe they aren't ready to show a bunch of extra stuff of like, okay, and here's what goes beyond what you saw in that SGF demo, Jeff, because everyone hasn't seen that yet, and they can focus on that now with the public. Let a lot of the media kind of talk around that. Hey, we saw this. We got to talk to Capcom about these things. Illuminate what's going on here specifically. That video does end with them showing, hey, the switch from first to third person, and they can really hit that. And then, this game's out next year. So later this year, then maybe they can have a few more beats where they talk about, okay, and here are some teases for some other characters in the game. And here are some teases, or actually just, outright express, here's how the gameplay is quite a bit different in terms of, here's one setting, here's how you're going to get to the other setting. And it's not necessarily maybe that hub and spoke model that we had in Village, although maybe it is. Who knows? A chance for something new here, like you mentioned, Dino Crisis. There's Mega Man, where I would like, man, does Mega Man ever show back up anytime soon? I'm always hopeful for our friend Mike Minotti that he can get his Mega Man back. But these 4 games that they're talking about right now, and then they have like updates for some other stuff, like Street Fighter, and oh no, Street Fighter 6 is one of those games. But yeah, they have a handful of updates for other stuff that's already been out. It sounds like a lot actually already, so I'm not expecting too many new big surprises here, and it's not like Capcom really needs them.
No, exactly. They're still ticking along. They just discounted Village actually, and it's selling like crazy. I think they put it down to like $10 on Steam and on PlayStation as well, and people like hundreds of thousands of people are kind of like queuing up for it. I think it's got just under 100K on Steam. So they're being so smart. They're really like Capcom. Honestly, they are the ones to watch right now. And like fellow Japanese developer Konami is like looking at what they've done and is like,
Yep.
we need to do that shit as well. And they've kind of started that with their MGS3 Delta. And I hope they return to grace in a similar way to Capcom. But yeah, we'll see on that.
Yep, it'll be very interesting if they're able to pull that off, which they started to. You know, Silent Hill 2 remake, very well received, and now they got a Silent Hill F to come follow that up. It's very similar, and I think, you know, a lot of that for Capcom isn't just like, oh, this is an idea, let's just do exactly what the Capcom's doing over at Konami. It's like you also have to be very good at, you know, working with partners like Konami has been, or working with your own engine and having a really strong development team.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's keep going here. After a rocky start, Gears of War Reloaded's beta is being extended. This comes from Jordan Midler at VGC. Following a difficult first beta for Gears of War Reloaded, developer The Coalition has said it's planning to run another multiplayer test for the game, which will include more maps and more modes. Gears of War Reloaded, which is a modern remaster of the 2006 epic shooter, will mark the series' debut on PlayStation after 20 years. Ahead of the game's release, developer The Coalition has begun running a series of betas for the Gears of War Reloaded's multiplayer suite. However, during the game's first beta, players reported constant server instability and technical issues. This, combined with the limited availability of the beta, has caused some frustration for fans. In response, the Coalition has confirmed that another beta will now run from June 20th until June 22nd, so basically this weekend, on all platforms, and will feature 5 maps for both social team deathmatch and competitive King of the Hill and execution. You know, part of me always feels like when this happens, Reese, that it's like, oh, this was always planned. But you know, in this situation, maybe not. I think the team is just responding pretty quickly to a beta that didn't go the way they wanted it to, which is, hey, they wanted information about how the game ran. I'm sure they got that. But these things are always marketing as well at this point. And I think they want people feeling good about Gears of War, especially as they plan to launch it on PlayStation, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a mix of like a stress test for the servers, but also it is a demo, it is marketing. And like I actually played the beta quite a bit, and like tech issues aside, I've really enjoyed my time with it. Like maybe getting a little too much in the nitty gritty here, but they really kind of like nerfed the shotgun compared to the 2006 OG, which I love because like I prefer Gears to be a little bit more mid range, a little bit more long range, like with the Lancer.
Right.
And if I'm close up, I'm going to chainsaw someone, not use the Nasher. And I think like back in 2006, like the meta in Gears really shifted to like shotguns only, just people rolling around shotgunning everywhere, which I don't think is what Epic had in mind. So yeah, I really like it. But I do think that this was kind of always part of the rollout, like you said, Jeff, because it's not something that you can just kind of like, you know, throw up after 24 hours, you know, it's like. But I think they took the opportunity to also like get some good PR along with you know, the usual marketing stuff. So I'm excited, and it makes sense as well because this is the first Gears that will be on PS5, and Forza Horizon is smashing it on PlayStation as well. Sold like 2.6 million copies. And I think the novelty of Gears on PlayStation, along with the $40 price point and the fact that a lot of Xbox 360 players kind of transitioned to PS4, and so there's a lot of nostalgia for Gears among PlayStation players because of that, means that Gears Reloaded is going to do very well. Like whether or not it approaches those Forza heights remains to be seen.
Right.
But I'm very excited. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and like, you know, the the story of, oh, Xbox games on PlayStation pretty stale at this point, but I mean, overall, in your estimation, the strategy for Xbox seems to be working, and honestly, it seems like everyone's kind of winning here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like more people get to play Xbox games. Like PlayStation takes a 30% cut of all those sales. Xbox is, getting more revenues amid kind of a Game Pass subscription stagnating a little bit. Everybody wins. Like the way I see it, if more people get to play games, then that's fucking awesome, right? Like,
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's keep going here as well. Sega has made 9 of its mobile retro re-releases free before they are delisted. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Sega has made 9 of its mobile retro re-releases free before they're delisted in the future. For a while, Sega had been re-releasing retro games on iOS and Android devices as part of its Sega Forever program. Now, as noticed by Android Authority, 9 of these Sega Forever titles have started showing players pop-up screens explaining that they're set to be removed. There we go. And then support for this game will be discontinued, says the message, but you can continue playing offline. The 9 mobile games affected are Crazy Taxi Classic, Golden Axe Classic. I'm not going to read the classic for the rest of these. Shining Force, Sonic CD, Sonic the Hedgehog Episode 4, Episode 2, Streets of Rage 2, Super Monkey Ball, Sakura, and Virtua Tennis. It seems like what happened here is there was free ads in these games, and those ads have broken. And so Sega's like, well, we're not going to support it anymore because we're not going to fix that, and it's not going to fix itself, and we're not going to change the business model. But they are still free on the store, and the ads won't work. So now they're just completely free games without any sort of monetization or ads. So people could just go get these games, have them on their device, and then they'll just continue to work. On mobile, it's a little bit funky with, hey, okay, well, if I have a license for this thing, will I be able to continue to download it after it's no longer available? I think in this case, I wouldn't bet on that. That's something, on Nintendo systems where it's like, oh, the store shut down. That's terrible. It's like, well, yeah, but if you bought those games, you could still go download DSiWare games, I think, and stuff like that. Here on mobile, it's that there's just not as much of a desire to protect these games long term. So yeah, if you want these games, I would just go get them now, have them on your device, and then you just have them. Which is what I did this morning, Reese. So yeah, I was pretty excited to see this. And not that I'm going to be playing a lot of Sonic CD on my phone, but I'll play. You know what? I'll play some Crazy Taxi every once in a while. That's a game that's wild enough that playing on with a touchscreen controller almost kind of makes sense to me. But yeah, Sega, pretty cool thing for them to do, right?
Yeah, they really didn't need to do this, right? So respect. I mean, they didn't really publicize it much either, but still very cool. And another kind of wrinkle to it as well is maybe, with all the ad stuff, Sega saw an opportunity to sunset a lot of its legacy mobile stuff because, last year it acquired Rovio, the Angry Birds company, which has a lot more experience, obviously, in mobile than Sega does, which was why, part of the reason why they acquired it. So, maybe they're wiping the slate clean a little bit, getting their ducks in a row for the next phase of their mobile push. But unlike you, I think playing Crazy Taxi on mobile is the worst thing for me. I cannot handle that.
I'm down for it.
Yeah, I can't control 3D games on a mobile. I just can't do it. I've tried. But hey, I mean, I do have the controller, so maybe I'll give it a try.
Yeah, there you go.
But also they don't have all the fun branding on the mobile version as well. The KFC branding is Chicken Shack or something.
Yeah, but I think, okay. But Rich Bad at Games in chat is saying it does have the full soundtrack though, which is
no way.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that to the point where I almost don't believe you, Rich Bad at Games. Is that for shoot? I'm gonna go check that out for myself. That's actually impressive. So
yeah, but Offspring, that's wild. Yeah, music licensing is so hard. How did they pull that off? That's impressive. I hope that's the case. Yeah,
I suppose on phone that's the easiest place to have the game and then just play the Offspring on YouTube Music in the background or whatever. But no, I want it in the game for real. Give it to me. And then Rich Bad at Game says, "Fuck you, Jeff." Fair. I just don't trust you, man. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we have plenty more headlines to get into, including, hey, is that big game from last year coming to Switch 2? Maybe. We'll talk about it right after this. All right, we are back. It's Game Mess Mornings. I'm Jeff Grubb. That's Reese Elliott, and I'm very happy that the intro video did not play again, even though it's right there in the thing. I turned it off, and I was hoping that would work. Here we are. Again, I had to rebuild OBS this morning, everybody, so this is a very patchwork show right now. Jan's back tomorrow. Thank God. All right, let's get back into it. PS5's Stellar Blade is reportedly coming to Nintendo Switch 2. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. Stellar Blade is reportedly coming to Nintendo Switch 2. That's according to a new report which claims that Stellar Blade developer Shift Up is currently developing a Nintendo Switch 2 port of the game following its massive Steam success. According to Playforum, translated from Korean, the popular action game is currently in development for Nintendo's new console. This comes as developer Shift Up gifted hundreds of Nintendo Switch 2 systems to its employees. Developer Shift Up told Playforum that nothing is confirmed regarding the development of a Switch 2 version, but that it was reviewing various possibilities internally. This one feels like I could easily see this happen. Switch 2 is, we're going to talk about like how third-party games are doing on Switch 2. There are certain games where like that conversation doesn't really apply. Stellar Blade certainly seems like one of them, especially after how well it did on Steam, right?
Yeah, like absolutely. Like it really did well on Steam, like you said, like 1.1 million copies sold. And like for PlayStation, this is great as well because I mean there's two parts to it. PlayStation really wants to target like China to increase its audience.
Yeah.
And on PC, 56% of on Steam that is of Stellar Blade's players are from China.
Wow,
so like
okay.
the majority actually. So it's kind of wild. And another thing as well, when Stellar Blade hit Steam, the PS5 version had like a spike in sales actually. So it sold like 56k a week after that, like in the week, which is the most it's kind of sold since I think November last year when it went on sale for like $50. So it's like it's such a like important part of PlayStation strategy. Reach China, increase sales in its kind of core platform, and kind of reap those like Steam revenues where it gets like 70% of kind of everything sold, which is actually a lot of money. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So if they can do that via the Switch 2, for which third-party games are doing very well right now because there's very little first-party. Like Cyberpunk is the second best-selling game on Switch 2 right now. It just makes a lot of sense, right, Jeff? It really does.
Yep, it makes a lot of sense. Also, that's a game that should run on the Switch 2, kind of no problem. It's running on Steam Deck. You have to run it at the resolution that the Steam Deck is, 800p. But that's the resolution of that screen. And to me, that says, if you get that game running at like 540p with the DLSS, similar to like how Street Fighter runs, you could probably have that game even run at 60 frames per second potentially on the Switch 2. As long as you turn down some of the other features, and I think that would be fantastic. Then there is the Sony aspect. Sony did publish this game. They published it on Steam as well, I think. I think they did.
Yeah, that's right. Like not officially in China because they don't have a license, but for all intents and purposes, like most Chinese gamers will play it on the gray market and get it through Steam anyway. So yeah, you're right.
So then it's like, okay, well, what does that look like on Switch? Well, at this point, this is not a game that Sony owns, but it is a game that Sony published. There are games that Sony straight up owns that are coming to Switch 2 or Switch 1. And that's like Patapon and stuff like that. They did that Patapon remaster, and that got announced for Switch at one of those recent directs. And now Sony's not publishing those, but it still owns those, and it seems like that they're just doing that because it's the easiest solution for them. Whether that's because they don't want to be seen as publishing games on Switch, I don't know. Maybe. I don't think so. I think it's more just like, hey, that's a cheap way to get that over there, and we don't have to take any of our own resources. And sure, we have to share some money with this other publisher, but it's basically for us, as far as we're looking at it, free money. So I just think if that's how they feel about their own games, there's just no way they're still hung up on this idea of these games that they don't own, that they happen to publish, going to at least the Nintendo platform. And, at the very, it's worth pointing out, this is not even the weirdest one of these. Death Stranding, another game it published, went to Xbox eventually. So, yeah, I just think that the lines of demarcation between these platforms are, murkier than ever. And I think in this case, it's like, yeah, of course this game's going to make sense on Switch 2, regardless of Sony's involvement, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, Sony has already dabbled with kind of publishing on Switch with like Lego Horizons.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So they're really kind of getting in there. And yeah, I think it just makes sense as well. Like with the second party stuff, it's more of like a safer way to kind of test the waters, see how the Switch users kind of respond to PlayStation content. Because Lego Horizons didn't do very well, honestly, but it didn't do very well anyway, because that's an IP mismatch, if you ask me. So, they're still testing the waters a little bit. And, I wouldn't be surprised eventually if we see some of those legacy PlayStation games on Switch, like your Uncharted, your Ratchet and Clanks, that would do very well. Even Astro's, Astrobot, that would be amazing. I mean, would not be great not great, but it would suck to not have the haptics.
The haptics.
The 3D Rumble is good on the Switch too.
Exactly. So they could do that. Would be fine. It's the force feedback in the triggers and stuff like that. You might miss that for sure. And honestly, Astrobot does use a lot of the analog controls for the triggers, so the game might not even work that well. They'd have to like rethink it for the Switch too. So sorry, I'm just thinking out loud now. But you're right. I would still like that. I would like a PS1 Classics collection on Switch 2. I don't know if we're there yet. Probably not, but I would like that.
Yeah, that would be cool. Like as part of the Switch Online subscription, right? We've got N64, GameCube, all the others.
Oh yeah,
like,
even that would be amazing.
Could you imagine that?
Yeah,
that would be wild.
I actually can't.
That might be a stretch. But
Yep.
I'd love it.
Hard to imagine that. All right, let's see here. A look at how third-party games are selling on Nintendo Switch 2. This is from Nintendo Everything. By way of The Game Business, which published a new report diving into the sales of third-party Nintendo Switch 2 games. The outlet has received data from a few different companies. Highlights include 62% of Switch 2 physical game sales in the United States during the launch week were first-party games. That excludes the Mario Kart World Bundle. So take that out, and still far more than half were first-party games. I don't think that's too surprising. 48% of Switch 2 physical games sales in the UK for launch week were first-party games. Again, that excludes the bundle. 86% of Switch 2 physical game sales in the UK for launch week were first-party games, including the Mario Kart World Bundle. That does include that. Excuse me, there. By comparison, for the launch of Switch 1, that number was 89% instead of 86%. So I guess a little bit more in favor of third party, but effectively pretty much the same thing. So not much difference, I think, despite the idea that maybe, hey, Switch 2 could be better for third parties. And then let's see here. And for the launch month of Switch 1 in the United States, 81% of US physical game sales were from first party games. And then CD Projekt's Cyberpunk 2077 was the best selling third party game during the launch of the Switch 2, beating the launch sales of CD Projekt's The Witcher 3 on Switch 1. And then Sega was the number 3 biggest publisher on Switch 2. When it comes to games released both physically and digitally, over 80% of Switch 2 game sales came from physical retailers. So still a lot of people buying physical games on Switch. Excuse me. All right, so how do you read all this, Reese? This sounds like, if I had to guess beforehand, I think I might have been a little bit more in favor of, hey, so I think third-party games might do a little bit better, but seeing this in hindsight and kind of now knowing how I felt about the launch of the Switch 2 and the games I was most interested in picking up, I'm not too surprised by these numbers. How about you?
Yeah, same. I mean, the attach rate for Mario Kart World is going to be insane, right? So that's the main thing.
Of course.
Like, there's not much else first party except the Zelda upgrades and the mini game collection. I forget what it's called.
The Welcome Tour?
Yes, that's it. Apart from those, like, there's not really much first party. So it's, for all intents and purposes, it's all Mario Kart, right? In the same way that with the original Switch, it was mostly all Breath of the Wild. So that comparison makes sense. But yeah, over time, I think like third parties will still kind of generate a lot of revenue because, you know, the original Switch, there wasn't a lot of third parties because everybody was like, well, the Wii U sucked, so we're not going to like add games to this next Nintendo platform.
Yeah.
And then it became like insanely popular. You couldn't get a Switch anywhere. So a lot of publishers were kind of like, they missed the boat, right? Like even Bobby Kotick, like piece of shit. Sorry. Like he said, like, yeah, we regret not supporting the original Switch at launch. So a lot of the third parties, they kind of learned their lesson. And that's why there's so much coming to Switch. We've got Call of Duty come in, like it launched with Cyberpunk. So yeah, like Mario Kart did suck up a lot of the air because it's Mario Kart, right? Like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the best-selling Switch game and one of Nintendo's best-selling games ever. It is actually Nintendo's best-selling game ever. Like, actually, I mean, you could count Tetris, but I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, or Super Mario Brothers on NES, which was bundled, and yeah, it's a little bit different. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Wii Sports for the same reason. But yeah, I really think like even as for new games, like developers are already building like lower fidelity versions of their games, like for the Series S, for lower end PCs, for your Steam Decks. So the Switch 2, it is going to be a perfect storm, right? Like it's even going to be the all-in-one like third-party development device that has PC games because the mouse stuff is pretty good. Like Welcome Tour showed that. Xbox is going to come to it. Like we said earlier, Jeff, PlayStation's probably going to come to it more. Of course, Nintendo games. So yeah, I think third parties will do well on the Switch. But still, like I'm hoping for a direct soon to hear more about first party stuff because yeah, we have Donkey Kong, we have that Splatoon announcement, but like I want to hear more about like Mario Kart, Pokemon 2026. I want some new IP. So yeah, have you heard anything about a direct by any chance? Because you're Mr. Leaks.
Yeah, nope, not heard anything about a direct. I don't. And as always, I like to point out that doesn't mean there's not one happening. There's a million reasons why I wouldn't have heard about one that's happened before. It'll happen again. In this situation, especially after we get the Donkey Kong specific direct, I think at the end of our talk over, Mike and Dan were both saying we might get I think Mike and Dan were both saying we might get a Metroid specific direct. I like the sound of that. That sounds plausible to me. I lean in that direction as opposed to a full direct. Although, a partner direct could literally pop off at any moment. That's the kind of thing where it's like Nintendo really had to cram as much as it could into that first Switch 2 direct. And there probably wasn't a lot of space for a lot of other games that were desperate to get into there. And I do think Nintendo is interested in letting third parties know, like, we do want Switch 2 to be a little bit more friendly for you. So we're going to continue trying to create, oxygen in the room for you to really breathe and spread your legs a little bit. Well, no, stretch your legs. Oh, I did it. I did the thing. And I hope that does happen and gives those games a chance to really get out there. But as far as this launch goes, when I look at like Switch 2 and the way the games it launched with, it's a lot of games that are very familiar. Not just like, oh, maybe you played this on another platform. It's like a list of games that people who, if they care about those games, have definitely sought them out. Like even Cyberpunk is a game that people have probably very much found a way to play before this. I think Switch 2, there's a novelty there, having it portable, and then there's a Nintendo audience that probably didn't check it out, and now they have an opportunity to do so. But that list of games that's like going to have a chance to pop off because of those right circumstances is very small. So in this story, Chris Dring, who is the game business, he says these numbers aren't great at all for third parties. He also heard from one publisher that the data is below our lowest estimates. And I just, I think that's a couple of things. Again, it's a lot of these games are very familiar. Also, there just actually were way more of these third party games than there were at like the launch of the Switch 1, where it's like, oh, hey, look at this Golf Story game that came out pretty soon. And that game just popped off. Everyone just bought that because it's this one new third-party indie game worth talking about. Mm-hmm. And here it's like there's just a lot more traffic for any one game to stand out. So Cyberpunk kind of was the one that won there, and everything else got left behind a little bit. Do you think that has long-term implications for third-party success on Switch 2? I don't know. What do you think?
No, I don't think so. And like another one was like Snake Pass, right? And the Switch one, that never would have been a success anyway.
No, I love.
But no, I don't
Snake
think
Pass
so.
Guy. I love Snake Pass.
Oh yeah. This is part of your personality.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Nice, but no, I don't think it's going to be a long-term problem. And another kind of wrinkle, I guess, is that the whole Switch 1 library is playable on the Switch 2, which a lot of Switch 2 owners did, myself included. I've been playing a lot of Mario Odyssey lately. I went
Yeah.
back to Animal Crossing. It looks so good at 4K, by the way, with Odyssey. But like that's part of it too. And I think as well, like a big thing to remember is that shares percentages aren't like whole numbers, right? And I
Exactly.
think Mario Kart really did pull a lot of that sway because of the bundle, because it is like the game, right? Like that's the killer app of this console. So I
And the console's
wouldn't.
expensive. So it's like there's not
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
money left over for games.
Yeah, exactly. So again, like a lot of people probably like mind their back catalog, and like Mario Kart was probably their only game. So yeah, don't take this like early third party kind of lack of sales. Don't extrapolate it to the rest of the Switch catalog because it's not going to be like this forever, right? Like this is a new slate. Like people are just excited to go back to their back catalog. Like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom are some of the best games of all time, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion. So people, of course, want to go back to those games and play those like at the higher fidelity. So yeah, like this is not the end of the line or anything. Third parties will do well on Switch, like especially when we get the Xbox and the PlayStation stuff. So yeah, I agree with Chris String in a lot of ways. Very smart guy.
Oh yeah,
His game business is amazing.
I love it.
But yeah, don't take this early kind of these early challenges as long term because things will change.
Yeah, I still think the outlook for third-party games on Switch 2 is much brighter than just about any other recent home console variation of a Nintendo console. I don't think it'll be night and day. I don't think this is going to be like, oh, this is like just green pastures for EA. But I think there will be far more of these third-party games throughout the Switch 2's life that seem to like really do well on that system. And yeah, that's kind of between like a PlayStation where third party games have always thrived and always just had as much room to grow as possible. And then like what's like a Wii, not even a Wii U third party was okay on there. But like a Wii U, where it's like no third-party game sold at all on the Wii U. Batman Arkham Knight Armored Edition or whatever. Yeah, that didn't sell. All right, let's keep going here. Next up, rumored God of War spinoff pushed back to 2026, according to insiders. This is from Alessandro Barbosa at GameSpot. A rumored God of War game taking place in the series' original setting of Greece was absent from Sony's latest State of Play showcase, leading to questions regarding its existence. But according to those who initially reported on the project, it's supposedly been moved to release in 2026. While lamenting the state of his fantasy critic draft on the latest episode of The Last of the Nintendogs, Giant Bomb's Jeff Grubb shares that he's heard the latest God of War title is now due out in 2026. No additional information regarding the reasoning for the move or whether it was the release window all along was shared. Okay, yeah, let's update it here. I actually mentioned this before that State of Play, but I did so on Twitter, which is just a weird platform now where it's like, if I post something on Twitter, it's very likely the algorithm will just be like, oh, this person's got a lot of followers. We want to keep them happy. Let's just boost this shit to crazy town. But then a lot of people I like interacting with don't see it at all. So this thing where I was like, hey, that State of Play is happening. I don't know if God of War is going to be in it, but I have heard it's moved to 2026. So that was before the State of Play, and it didn't really get picked up. So I was just kind of following up on that on Last of the Nintendogs earlier this week. And now people are actually starting to like hear that. So I think what happened here is the game was originally supposed to come out this year. It was going to be a release for 2025, and then they've moved it to 2026. It is also, as the rumors have been suggesting, I'll corroborate those kind of officially now in some way, officially in a Jeff Grubb capacity, not a Sony capacity, that it sounds like it's going to be a 2.5D Metroidvania style game, which, boy, yeah, there we go. Me and Reese were like, yeah, let's go. Yeah. I think that's a great fit for hey, let's keep God of War in the conversation. Let's do something else with it. What can we do? Should we do a VR game like we did with Horizon? It's like, no, make a Metroidvania. That character is ideal for that. So, yeah, I'm still very excited about this, but the game does sound like it's coming out next year now. So, yeah, we'll have to wait a little bit longer. Does that sound appealing to you, though, this God of War Metroidvania 2.5D game?
It sounds very appealing to me. Like the Metroidvania A Prince of Persia game last year was so fucking good. So if we can get like PlayStation's premier studios behind that, although it's more of like a shorter game, right? It's more of their kind of thesis of making more sustainable games.
Right.
I think it would be incredible. I also think it would be a good game to launch a native portable PlayStation console with.
Not a bad
But
idea.
yeah, we'll see, we'll see. But yeah, I would love that. Like, it's more one for the core audience. You know, it's never gonna hit like the mainstream, like a 2.5D the Metroidvania God of War. But it's such a good like mix. Like when you think of like Kratos' abilities, the different weapons, like the axe from God of War, the PS5 game, the first reboot, and Ragnarok, the blades of chaos and everything. Like, yeah, it's the perfect blueprint, right? And it's been a while since we've had a good Metroidvania, to be honest. Like apart from the Prince of Persia one.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, my hope here is I hear 2.5D Metroidvania. If you make that thing play like Metroid Dread, but with Kratos, and I mean you're already far ahead of the pack in terms of getting my excitement going. So yeah, I think this is really going to hit for me. I think you're right. It's that mainstream audience probably won't pay it too much mind, but I think this is a decent way to do those two things. Like, hey, let's make some more games in these franchises that are smaller and we can get out at a relatively affordable price to us, and then let's keep God of War in the conversation. I think it does both those things well enough, especially if it's a really, really good one of these. And developers like making Metroidvanias. They just like it. They like the genre. They're inspired by it. They want to try their own ideas. And to me, I think when I hear some teams over at Sony want to make a Metroidvania, I mean it's like okay, that they got some real developers over there. Let's go. So this is an exciting proposition to me.
Hell yeah.
All right. Marathon delay was a surprise even to some of Bungie's developers. This is from Alex Coe at DualShockers. Yesterday, Bungie announced that its upcoming Extraction Live service shooter Marathon was getting delayed indefinitely, which shouldn't surprise anyone if you've been keeping tabs on the game. Apparently, even the developers at the studio were unaware of the game's delay, though, and only found out about it at the same time as everyone else. If true, this means the dysfunction at the studio is even more severe than anyone thought. This new tidbit of info comes from journalist Paul Tassi, who mentioned it over on Twitter, where he claimed that the developers were only finding out about the delay just now. I think this happens pretty frequently, I think, where there's a certain like subsection of the studio that will find out when everyone else finds out publicly. Now, that doesn't always happen that way. Is that a sign of dysfunction? Potentially. And I think it's easy to assume in this case, it is a sign of dysfunction. I don't think it necessarily always is, but here it definitely feels like that would be the case because this is a studio that has seemingly had issues with communication and processes where they are stealing art and no one knows who did it and or how it happened, and there's a ton of it in there, and it ends up in a final product or a public product that they are showing off to people. You kind of want to make sure you are crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's. And in this situation, when you know that you're delaying your game, you maybe want to at least just have a quick meeting with everyone at your studio, an all hands meeting, and just say that as you are announcing things at the very least. I get they're maybe worried about leaks, although leaking that this game was going to get delayed would have been like, oh yeah, everyone gets that. We kind of all feel that's going to happen. Let me ask you, do you think that Bungie is as dysfunctional as it seems from the outside right now?
I mean, it's hard to answer that, but they got acquired, so a change of hands is always going to be difficult. Like processes change, like chains of command change, so that's part of it. But yeah, it does seem to be like a lot of dysfunction at the studio. But what I will also say is like after the beta, like I played a little bit of it, or I guess pre-alpha, whatever they want to call it. I think the delay is very much needed, and I think a lot of the features that they mentioned in the announcement are kind of like a direct response to a lot of the community feedback from the beta. So they're kind of really Bungie's focusing on a lot of things that were missing, a lot of features that were missing from the beta. Things like proximity chat, which is like very necessary for like a PvE PvE game. Like the graphics are being improved, which they called out because honestly the beta did not look great. There's going to be more like PvE encounters because a lot of people were like, well, it's all PvP. Like, why is it even PvPvE? And there's more like solo stuff as well because the solo stuff, like even I experienced this, was not good in the beta. And like you said before, there's also the whole plagiarism thing, so they really need to go back to the drawing board on that, double down on quality control, like really look at the whole art. Well, what went wrong really? Because this isn't the first time or even the second time that Bungie has been accused and found guilty of something like this. So if there were a fourth time, especially now they're affiliated with PlayStation, like it would be rough. So it's a challenging time for Bungie. I think the delay is good for the game. It's good for gamers. But I think honestly, it's gonna be really, really tough. I have insider information on this. Like, yeah, I'll just say it. Like, a lot of like the high level people in Bungie have been concerned about Marathon since its inception. A lot of people internally tried to get it like cancelled because they didn't think it like the extraction shooter saturation penetration was there, and it's clearly not. But I think there's a little bit of sunk cost fallacy going on. They've put so much money, so many resources into this that I think they're going to keep going, and I think they will make an amazing game. But whether it has its return on investment is another story, honestly, Jeff.
Yep. Yeah, I think that at a certain point they crossed a point of no return with this game, where they have to. This game has to perform, and if it doesn't, then it's all up for Bungie in terms of operating the way it has been. Sony acquired it. It's not going to shut down Bungie, but it is going to clear out a lot of stuff probably after these games don't work out. The ongoing Destiny 2 updates, which who knows, maybe they're doing well enough, but they seem to have. It seems like they have a threshold they have to cross of, that's way higher than that game could ever do again. And then over at Marathon, it's like that game needs to be a blockbuster smash hit. And it just doesn't seem like that's in the cards. So you're right. I think the sunk cost fallacy is we got to do this because we can't even think about what happens if we can't deliver on this game. It has to deliver. That's our only option on the table. And that's a terrible place to be. Last question on this, and then we'll move on because we're running out of time here pretty soon. Do you think that this, like, I know when a delay like this happens, especially late when this game was going to come out this year, we always say, okay, they could do some stuff, but they can't really change the fundamentals of what this game is. I'm of the opinion that like this is the one situation where maybe that's not true. Maybe they are going to try to fundamentally add, at least if they're maybe they won't remove the extraction stuff. Although I personally just actually wouldn't be surprised if they maybe consider it. And come back with a game that is a little bit more palatable to a wider audience, or at least easier to digest. I think there are a lot of people like extraction shooters, but that audience already seems solidified in the way that the battle chess or the auto chess genre got solidified super fast, where it's like, okay, we don't need 25 of these from 25 different publishers all trying to find out if there's still space in that in there. Everyone figured it out pretty soon. It was team fight tactics, and that's it. Maybe a couple of others. This is like the same thing, and in some ways it's like the barrier to entry to extraction shooters is so high, or learning the curve there is so high that when people have decided on one, they're not looking for another. And so Marathon just might be in a bad situation unless it reintroduces itself as a different game. I don't know. Do you think there's a chance that could happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Like extraction shooters are very sweaty. Like if anybody who's played Tarkov will know it's brutal. And I think like they didn't outright say it in the delay announcement, but they were like, yeah, we're gonna focus more on the, single player and not single player, like one person player and duo stuff, which to me sounded like, yeah, they're gonna try and like add something that's a little bit less intense because the extraction shooter thing, like Tarkov has it cornered. Call of Duty added a mode for it and now has removed that.
Right, doesn't do that anymore. Yeah.
No, exactly. That's the canary in the coal mine. So this game was greenlit when, Tarkov was popping off and, like the extraction shooter hype is all there. But yeah, I think they will try and separate themselves from that because the core gunplay is amazing. It's Bungie, that's their bread and butter. So the foundation is there. So I think that's what they're doing. They're going back to the drawing board slightly, trying to make it appeal more to not necessarily a mass market, but not that niche extraction shooter market that isn't going to give the return on investment that Bungie is like, and PlayStation as well has poured into this game.
Yep. All right, last story here. Sony said to be eyeing acquisition of Warner Bros. Discovery streaming and games. This comes from Alex Coe at DualShockers. I'll read like the list of like studios that PlayStation might acquire if this were to go through. Avalanche, which made Hogwarts, NetherRealm, which makes Mortal Kombat, Rocksteady, the Batman Arkham series, TT Games, which is the Lego games people, WB Games Montreal, which is Batman Arkham Origins and Gotham Knights, and WB Games Boston, which does Lord of the Rings Online. This would also potentially get them HBO Max as a streaming service, which Sony might be interested in as they kind of expand their media empire. And maybe they could put a lot of the anime they make. They make all of the anime now, Sony does, for the most part. And it's like, well, here's a place where that stuff could really live for a mainstream audience who could sort of activate that anime in HBO Max to like really kind of put these two things together. And I honestly, I think that's a bigger side of it for them over at Sony, because, you know, there's still the question of, hey, if you acquire these studios, do you get the IP? The way that the story makes it sound right now, or the conversations around it, I guess, make it sound like, oh, they actually could at least get a license for a lot of these IP in a way that makes this acquisition work for them. I suppose if that's the case, sure, but that's a lot of people. That's a huge headcount to add these 6 studios to an already pretty big organization, and whose last acquisition of Bungie has been kind of nothing but a headache. Yeah, I don't know. Does this sound? Does this have the ring of truth to you?
I mean, yeah, there is a match, and yeah, like you're kind of alluded to, there would probably be layoffs, which fucking sucks, honestly.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's horrible. But yeah, there are a lot of strategic benefits for PlayStation. You know, like the IP domination, or the IP that I think they would get. They would not do this acquisition unless they had the IP, honestly. They already have like some of the best development studios in the world.
Yep.
Like this isn't as we say in the consulting world, like an acqui-hire kind of thing. But, you know, if they got exclusive rights to like Batman and Superman, you know, they could bolster their superhero stuff, which they've already proven they can do with Spider-Man. They'd get Harry Potter, like Hogwarts Legacy, like, yeah, trans disgusting shit aside with J.K. Rowling, is a very like profitable game, very palatable game to a lot of people. They'd get Mortal Kombat through NetherRealm, right? And, you know, they do Evo. They're really in the fighting game stuff. They have the Marvel game and everything going that they showed at the State of Play. You know, Game of Thrones, you know, decaying IP, but, you know, they could add that into their repertoire. Obviously, Rocksteady would be amazing. Like the Nemesis system, if they got that through Monolith, there's a lot of cool stuff they could do with like Greek gods and like stuff with the Nemesis system for God of War. But yeah, it does make a lot of sense. But there are challenges as well, like antitrust scrutiny, which is not as much as a thing anymore in the US with Trump. Financial burden, which is one thing they've really kind of struggled with you know, Bungie that we were just talking about. They really paid a premium for that hasn't given a return on investment. You know, a lot of revenue for Warner Brothers games comes from other platforms, which would be good for PlayStation because they're trying to increase the like total addressable market. But like the integration of the studios, I think it's like over 2,000 employees. There will be layoffs. Yeah. There will be like marketing people, PR people that aren't needed in Sony's opinion in the Sony machine. So there's that. So yeah, I mean, it does seem like I'm not, you know, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it makes sense, right? But there are risks, and there will be fallout if it does happen. Every single acquisition, a big acquisition in the past 4 years in the games industry has led to some kind of layoffs. So yeah.
Yep. And and it's at this point it feels like it could be extreme, right? Because it's just like it's just a huge headcount. So many people. All right. That does it for the headlines. Let's get to the poll question from yesterday, which I honestly just posted like 10 minutes ago. But hey, we got some results for that right here. Let me refresh, see how many votes we actually ended up getting. All right, we're at around 250 votes. All right. Are you going to get Donkey Kong Bonanza? 52% said yes, 9% said no, and 39% said I don't have a Switch 2. So that tells me Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to do just fine. That sounds like the kind of numbers where that feels like the next Mario Kart, where it's like, hey, I got a Switch 2. I have to have Donkey Kong. And that game looked really good in that direct yesterday. Did you get a chance to watch that?
Oh yeah, it looked so good. Like I was kind of apprehensive after the demos and everything, but they've really kind of shown the feature set. I like the, how would you call it? Like the environmental stuff. Yeah, there's going to be dicks and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
but, like,
without a doubt.
It really, like, I'm trying to figure out though, like, do you have any information on this? Is it the Mario Odyssey team or is it somebody else? Because like the animations and a lot of the UI look very similar. But I wish Nintendo would just say this stuff. Like, give your studios their dues, right? Like,
yep. Everyone, look at me. It's the Mario Odyssey team. Just yes, 100%. It just is. Everybody.
Hell yeah,
do they have support from other studios? Maybe. But this is the Mario Odyssey team. All right. Yeah, that's as much as I could say about that. I'll just look at me. Trust me on this one, everybody. It's the Mario Odyssey team.
Scoop.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, let's see here for the next full question. We'll get to that here in a second. So that means at this point, we say, hey, Reese Elliott, where can people find you on the internet? What do you have going on? What do you want to tell people? All that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky. I'm Super Reese on there. Also on LinkedIn, which is more of a business thing, but I'm Reese Elliott on there. I also have a new newsletter, actually. We've been doing it about a month now. It's called Alinea Insight on Substack. I'm actually publishing a new edition like right after this podcast. So if you want to get like any data on new releases, top games on Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, and like a couple of spicy takes, I think, check it out. Yeah, that's me. That's where you can find me. It's been a pleasure as always, Jeff.
Absolutely. What was the name of the Substack mailing list letter again?
You said it's Alinea Insight.
Okay. Everyone go check that out right now. Fantastic. Thank you, Reese, for being on the show. I really appreciate it. We have a new poll question. Did you buy any third-party games for Switch 2? Yes, no, or I don't have a Switch 2. We'll get the results of that on Game S Mornings tomorrow here on Giant Bomb. Speaking of Giant Bomb, in about an hour, I'm going to get set up to play some Gex Trilogy. We're going to do our Gex education here on the website with Audie Sorley from Limited Run Games, who's going to sit in with that with me. We're going to hang out and play some of those games for about an hour, and then we'll have Voicemail Dump Truck. So I'll have to get set up for that as well, because we're going to go right into that. So, yeah, going to be a good Thursday, and then tomorrow we'll be back with, let's see, we're going to have UPF, we're going to have a normal Thursday, or normal Friday, kind of all that stuff. I think we're going to do Fire Break still, although I'm kind of feeling like, I don't know, I'm not super in the mood for the game now. That sounds kind of mid, but whatever. It's probably still worth trying. Maybe we'll play it for a little bit and then try something else. All right, new poll question. I already did that, so what I actually do now is say, hey, Reese Elliott, thank you for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Love it. Every time. Always have fun.
Yep, it's great. Appreciate everyone being patient with me as I piece the show back together for myself, as it completely broke this morning. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, everyone, for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.